Hi everybody, welcome back to Mix Masters. This is video number 6 and we're going to be working with the cube. And we're going to be working on creating light, mid-tone, and dark value cubes. Stay tuned. Okay, so what I've got here is my work on paper before I go to the canvas. And this is to help explain what we're going to be doing. We're working with the value cube, and you can see here I've got a value scale that goes from 1 to 9. And it gets a little bit darker incrementally each time until we get to 9, and 9 is pretty much black. I can make this even a little bit darker, and then I can kind of balance this off just a little bit, maybe make this a little bit darker, and you can keep fiddling with it a little bit at a time in order to get a really nice value scale. So keep working on that. I think if you can do it on paper, you can do it on canvas pretty easily. So down here, the challenge for you is going to be creating a cube, and I'm going to show you how to do that fairly easily. I'm not concerned about these cubes being exactly the same across the board. What I'm most concerned about is that your values are going to match with these values up here, and that's why I've numbered them to give you a guide. And we're going to work with the light, mid-tone, and dark. So the darkest cube is going to be significantly darker than the lightest cube, and this is a really great way to understand how light and shadow affects your subject. An easy way to figure out how to make a cube is to measure out your top and bottom line and think of this as one big line going straight down all the way through. So I'm doing this with camera in hand. So from here to here, that is equivalent to the top of this to the bottom of this corner. Okay, and you can bring a ruler into it and measure it. Mine is, let's see, sorry, this is getting a little bit in the dark. It's a little bit more than, it's a little bit less than 1.5. It's a little shy of 1.5. It's easier to do this in centimeters, but I only have an inch ruler with me right now. So if you have a wooden ruler, you can make a mark on it, and that way you can make it a little bit more accurate. Put your ruler up to your measurement marks and make a line going straight down. And that way you know that's your center line. From here to here is this line from here to here. Okay, and then you need to figure out how far down this is coming on the sides to make your little triangle at the top, and you'll make a triangle at the bottom as well. So one way I like to do this is to measure like a second line going up. You can kind of see this faint line right here, and this I'll measure equidistance on both sides of this line. So starting at the center line, I kind of have like 1/2 inch on either side. So I'm going to come over here and equal this up there and put a mark for 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. So half is here. So it's 1/2 inch to here, 1/2 inch to there. And then that's where I know that these little wings are going to meet up. And I'm just going to do a little diagonal line. You can use a straight edge if you want. Mine are not very perfect because I kind of hand draw these things. Okay, so there's that. And then I can do straight lines up. Let's see, let's do the 1/2 inch thing again here. So here I'm coming down here, and I'm going to measure 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then I can kind of connect these things right here and right here, and then make a straight line here. There are easier ways to do cubes as well, but this is just if you've never had cube experience before, I find this to be a pretty helpful way to do it. And then I've got another measurement down. This is showing me where this little dot is. And this on mine is also 1/2 inch. I kept it pretty consistent. So from this corner to this corner is 1/2 inch. Boom. Same thing on this side. Boom. And now I've got a cube. Okay. And so what I've got here between the cubes, so you make 3 of these with a little bit of space between each one. I think my space is a 1/4 inch between each cube. This is a 1/4 inch between each cube. You can make it a 1/2 inch. It's totally fine. And then you would create a shadow. After you do 3 of these little boxes, do your boxes first. Then you've got a little bit of a shadow. This box here is giving off a shadow that doesn't quite reach to the tip of this, but is a little bit higher than the tip, and it goes straight across on the background. And then when you get over here, I'm giving a little bit of room because I want more value here, and I'm going to assume that the light is not strong enough to cast a shadow from this light one that covers all of these. Instead, it's going to cast a gentle shadow that's only going to go up about 3/4 of the way on one side of the cube. So you can see this shadow and this shadow, this shape here. You're looking for that shape. Just draw the shape out. Don't worry about the value just yet. And then from your second cube to your third cube, the shadow starts at the tip of the second cube and goes back, and it's about 1/4 of the way inside the third cube is where the shadow starts. I made this a little bit diagonal over here, so it's not quite at the edge, but it's a little bit higher. It's about 1/4 of the way up, and it slants down just a little bit because our slant would be there. And of course, you can make little paper cubes and light them and then follow the lighting that your cubes create. This is kind of out of my imagination. It's off of looking at other images of cubes that are set up. This comes down about 1/4 of the way. It's the same exact thing as this. So we get two similar shadows on these two cubes because that would make sense, similar lighting circumstance. And then the last shadow is not reflecting on or bouncing on top of any other object. Instead, it starts right at the point on the front facing of the cube, and it goes up in a diagonal line. And then again, up a little bit higher, maybe not quite 1/4, and then comes down to form a point. Then I want to talk about these value numbers because you're going to explore these and express them on your own cubes before you start. You can use a very light pencil if you like. I recommend using a 2H, or you can keep notes beside your cube so you don't have to write on it at all. And so what happens is you've got corresponding numbers, value 1, 2, 5. Let's just start with those. Value number 1 is white. So this won't be left white as in canvas. This will be painted white with titanium white paint. Number 2 is a little bit darker, but not quite too dark. It's still in the very light areas. And then number 5 is midtone. We're on the shadow side of the cube. Now this is the light cube. All of these cubes are assumed to have the same lighting circumstance. There's my 3-dimensional arrow. You've drawn many of these by now. And so the same 3-dimensional lighting circumstance for all 3 cubes. It's just this one is lighter, this one is midtones, and this is shadows or darker areas. So this is showing you how you can alter objects depending on the brightness of the lighting situation or the darkness of the actual color you are using. If you're using blacks and dark grays, you're probably going to want to use the dark value cube. If you're using midtone colors, kind of like reds or maybe cerulean blues, you'll be looking at the midtone circumstance. If you're using yellows and whites and bright colors, similar to like say a flower that has been lit from one angle, you'll be using the light circumstances for your value scale. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 5. 8 would correspond with this 8. So the scale you do up here is going to be represented down here. So that's all of the light values. Notice this number 8 is the same shadow that creeps up onto the second cube. Then you've got a value 4. It's almost a midtone. It's pretty much a midtone, but it's a light version of the midtone. Number 5 is straight up midtone. And then you're going to a number 8. 8 is over here. This is the shadow of the second cube. And 8 is consistent down here. Now we get a little bit deeper in our core shadow because we're going to a darker cube. So your 8 value here is going to reflect onto this cube as a 9. We're going to get pretty dark right here. Then the light's value of your darkest cube actually starts at a 6. Look at the difference between this. If we start at a 6 for the lightest value on the dark cube, the 6 versus a 1, so on your lightest cube, that's a significant difference. So you'll start at 6. Your midtone on the darkest cube is going to be a 7, and your darkest value, your darkest dark, similar to the core shadow over here, again, another core shadow right here, is a 9, which is black. And then the value that comes off of it from our cast shadow, remember we talked about cast shadow versus form shadow? Cast shadow comes off, and that's a number 8. okay? And I'm gonna photograph this and I'll post it in the video. I will also post it in our Facebook group and send you an email of this. Okay, one thing I wanna show you down here, this is some rules to live by. The darkest light is lighter than the lightest dark. So let's go up and look at this. The darkest light is a 5. So our darkest light is a 5, and our darkest light is lighter than the lightest dark. This is the lightest dark, and it's a value number 6. So keep that in mind. Your darkest darks will never be lighter than your darkest lights. That sounds very confusing, but spend a couple of minutes with it to understand what's going on between your lightest value cube and your darkest value cube. All of these values in the darkest cube are going to be darker. Sometimes people have a difficult time going dark with their paintings, and they kind of stay in this mushy mid-tone value scale. But if you understand this rule, you'll know that when you have to paint something dark, you're going to start with this end of the value scale, comfortably so. So that way you can get contrast and make dynamic, bold painting choices. Okay, I've got the darkest light is a value number 5. The lightest dark is a value number 6, which is expressly said right there. And you can see it right here. Again, value 5, value 6. Okay, I'm gonna take a photo of this and then it's time to paint. Okay, I am here with my grayscale, getting ready to be a grayscale. I've got my first value, titanium white. My second value starts with titanium white, and I've got a mixture of chromatic black, which, if you remember from the previous video, is ultramarine blue plus burnt umber. If you already know how to mix a value scale, feel free to skip through until I finish this, because I'm going to mix this with you. So I'm going to grab a little bit of black on my palette knife, and I'm going to start mixing my second value. And I'm using my cheap paper towels for this, because no need to use the expensive ones since I'm just using it to wipe off my palette knife. So I have the goal of creating 9 values to match our value scale for the cubes. And you want to make sure to really mix it up nicely. There shouldn't be any white left over. Sorry if there's any jumpiness with the camera. I'm hand holding it right now. Okay, and I'm going to move this over to start value 3. So I really don't need a whole lot of value 2 based on what we're doing with our cubes. So okay, this is going to start value number 3. I'm going to wipe off my palette knife. Okay, so palette knife is clean, ready to go. I'm going to grab a little bit more black right there. And maybe that's too much black. Let's see what happens. The darker these go, the more black you need to use in them. So whatever is displaced by the white, you'll get back from the black. I'm not quite sure how slow or fast I need to go with my mixtures just yet, because I know I want exactly 9 of them. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. This looks like a nice difference between this one and this one. I think there's a nice, so 1, 2, 3. So I'm gonna take most of this and move it over. I'm using oil paint at this point, which is why I'm able to make such nice little neat, tidy blobs. If I was using acrylic paint, it's gonna be a lot sloppier. Okay. Now I'm going to move on to the next value. I'm going to use a little bit more black. Got a little bit more black on there, and here we go. I should be getting pretty close to my mid-tones with this one, because number 5 definitely is a mid-tone, half of the value, right? A little bit further than half the value at 5. Okay, So let's see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm gonna leave a little bit. I'm gonna take most of this and move it over. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, I'm gonna definitely need a lot more black. I'm cleaning off my palette knife so I don't get my lighter values into the black. Clean palette knife. And I'm gonna grab some more black. I'm gonna start with this and let's see where that takes me. Not quite dark enough yet, I don't think. I think I need to go, well, it's definitely darker than the previous one. I did this last time to myself and then I was unhappy with the results. Let's see. I'm gonna spread these out because sometimes you can only see them if you kind of spread them a little bit. That looks not bad. That looks okay. I'll keep it. And if I want to compare it, yeah, I'll keep it. All right, I was just looking at my pencil chart to see how far I've gotten and if I need to actually make it any darker. So I'm moving a lot of this blob over and I'm leaving this amount for number 4 because I don't even need, actually I can even move more of it over because I won't need that much. Okay, cleaning off my palette knife again. Okay, and now I'm gonna grab some more. Okay, now I'm starting to really add a lot because I need to start forcing these to go into the dark part of the mid-tone scale. And again, I'm probably making this look fairly easy because I've done so many of these in my lifetime. If you're new to this or you've only done like, 10 or 15 of these things, it might take you a little bit longer to do, which there's no problem in that. Okay, I'm gonna now spread this one out so I can kind of see the difference between them. It's looking pretty good. Okay, I like it. I like what I'm seeing. It's a little bit of a jump, but not tremendous. It's not scary. I think it's looking okay. All right, how many do I have now? So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, okay, I've got one more to go. I think I'm gonna have to alter some of these once I'm done because I only want a value scale of 9, and I personally don't think this 8 is gonna be dark enough. And I also think 8 and 7 kind of look very similar. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 kind of look the same. So before I move on, I'm gonna push this a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna grab some more black and really push this. I don't want a huge jump, but I do want it noticeable so that way I don't have to jump so far between 8 and 9, because that will be very difficult. Okay, it does look like a pretty big jump, but not worried yet. Okay, that looks like a nice dark value, and I feel like if I leave a little bit of this and move it over, that the remaining part of the black is going to be perfect. Okay, here we go. I think this is going to be a nice shift between 8 and 9. That's still a little light. Just gonna grab some more. And let's see, what does that look like? That looks nice and dark. I'm afraid it's going to be too light by comparison, but let's see. Let's just see. I'm going to open this up a little bit. By opening it up, it means I'm just kind of spreading these out a little bit just so I can kind of see the scale difference. I don't know, that looks okay. It's not crazy different. I mean, there's jumps, but these two are pretty similar. Let's see what this looks like. Let's open it up. It's like a little gift of value. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then this is my white. Ooh, I just got black in it. Yikes. All right, I'm gonna get that out. Obviously did not clean my knife out enough for that one. There's an opening surprise. Okay, there it is. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, I think they look okay. So let's start painting. So we're back with our newly mixed value scale, and we're getting ready to work on the last square rectangle on our panel, on panel number 1. And here I've got 3 value cubes drawn out, 1, 2, 3, and they're drawn out based on our sketch from earlier. So I'm gonna use this sketch from earlier as my map. So instead of writing the numbers on here, I'm just gonna refer over to here, and I'm gonna follow this exactly with values 1 through 9. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit to get you closer. Okay, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And I'm gonna start out with the lightest value square, which is right here. And I'm gonna start with value number 1, which is white. And I'm just using titanium white. And even though the canvas is white, I still want to paint this white. It's in good form to do so because you want your painting to all be at the same level. So painting white on white canvas is as important as painting any other color or value on your canvas. You don't want any canvas area just hanging out, because if you were to paint over it, you want to make sure that the painting is kind of all built at the same time. Okay, I should mention I'm using the same brush that I've been using, which is kind of a mix of hog's hair and synthetic, and it's a filbert, but you can use whatever you like. It's pretty small, it's a 1/4 inch from left to right. Okay, now I'm looking back at my notes, and I've got a number 2 up here. So I'm gonna grab my second value, still pretty light, and I'm just gonna fill in, looks pretty dark once it's up here, and I'm still gonna fill in this area. And my cubes are not perfect. I'm not teaching a class in geometry, just in drawing, but I wanna, drawing and painting, my cubes probably should be a little bit more perfect, but here we go. My edge is a little soft there. I could probably harden that edge just a little bit. Let's see what I can do. That little edging technique, that looks a little bit better. Okay, so that's number 2. All right, and now I'm gonna go to number 5 over here. So I'm gonna count down carefully. Don't forget to include white as your number 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is a midtone, pretty dark. And 5 goes right here. And this is the shadow color of the lightest value cube. So my shadow ends up being a mid-tone value. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so there's number 5. I'm not going to do the shadow yet. I'm going to skip over and I'm going to go into the cube because I want you to see the lightest value of the mid-tone cube. So I'm going to just wipe out my brush a little bit just to make sure I'm not getting a lighter value in it or getting a darker value into 4. So I'm going into number 4 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, counting my white is number 1. And I'm going to paint number 4 now. So number 4 is being painted. I'm not painting the shadow, not yet anyway. Maybe I can fix my drawing a little bit while I'm painting. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I have to recount each time, otherwise I will forget. And this is actually opposite of how I typically paint and how I typically recommend painting. Usually I tell you to put the shadows in first, But in this case, I want to keep really clean, clear values, and I don't want any chance for mistake of muddying up these lighter values. Okay, so that's number 4. I'm going to do the top, which is number 5, and I'm kind of doing them lighter to darker. So that way it's kind of easier to fix a darker, like it's easier to fix the darker values than the lighter values. That's why I do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going into value number 5. A cool trick, which I have not shown yet, is that if you're using a glass palette, you can use a dry erase marker to write on your palette. As long as you don't get it in your paint, it will help you sort your paint for quick reference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you don't have to count them out every single time. You can just refer to your notes and get it done. Okay, so there's my number 5 on my not so beautiful cube. I kind of want to fix it. Okay. All right, so there's number 5. All right, now I'm going into number 8, which is the darkest shadow. Now 8, if you notice, also is the shadow for all of these things. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's do it. So 8 is 1 before 9, meaning it is my second to darkest color. And let's go ahead and put this in. It's pretty dark. And I'm gonna try and do that little edging technique. There it is. And I am getting a full brush load of paint just to make it a little bit easier. I'm so totally gonna correct this because it's driving me nuts. All right, I'm going down this way. That is one wobbly looking cube, isn't it? All right, there it is. All right, and then I'm gonna do a little bit more on the bottom here. And I'm not gonna do this as one huge blob to start with because I want to give you the example of what it looks like as we progress. So what I'm gonna do with my number 8, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look at this shadow here and this cast shadow. Remember, it's casting from the light source. So this cast shadow here, and then the cast shadow here. These are all number 8s. So I'm gonna go ahead and, since I've got that on my brush now, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So here's number 8. And I'm doing them shape by shape. And you can do them all at one time, but I really wanna give an example as to why and how this works. Okay, so you've got the cast shadow, your light source is coming from over here. I'm just going to use a number 8 up here as well and just give our little arrow, our famous light arrow, light direction. Okay, so the light's coming from this angle, so this block blocks the light. So you're getting a harsh shadow here that's then going to be reflected, bounced back up onto this cube over here. So I'm going to go ahead and now paint this kind of shadow blocking area. And it is the same line as the cube. Do a little straight edge action there, because we're working with straight edges. The cubes theoretically are straight. Mine are a little wobbly. If any of you are architects or draftspeople, mathematical people, geometry people, you probably are doing a much better job than I am right now. Okay, so that's that. Now I've got one more section of 8. I'm gonna go to 8, and then I'm gonna go back into, this is a 9. I'm not gonna do this yet. So I'm gonna do 8 here, and then, Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do this yet. I've changed my mind. Instead, I'm going to go back and I'm going to put in the darker bits in here, then come back to the shadows. And the reason why is because, again, I want to show you where the darkest dark cube starts. So I don't want you to confuse the shadow for the actual values of the cube. So we're going back to a number 6 in this area right here. That's number 6. I'm counting starting from my white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 I have not used yet. It is a fresh blob of paint. And here we go. Okay, so that's number 6. Now I'm going to go to number 7, which is the top part of this cube. So 6, 7. I don't think we've had a 7 yet. This is our first 7. And here we go. I'm going to straighten this up again too, because that is one horrifying looking cube. There we go. I'm going to ignore my pencil marks there. You can ignore pencil marks. They don't dictate what you do. They're just a guide for what you do. I'm going to defy my own pencils. Sometimes it's not a good idea, but I feel like I should go a little bit rogue on this cube. That looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Okay. All right, so that's the top. That is number 7. And now I am going to go back to number 8. 8 is this shadow here. This gets really dark because now you've got a dark surface, reflective light from this table bouncing up onto a darker surface, which means this shadow will be a little bit darker. So this is dark, really dark. It's number 8. This is just black. This is also black because this is the dark cube, which this is black. And then the cast shadow from that is not going to be this dark. It's going to kind of cast off in a lighter version of number 8. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in number 8, going back. And here I'm going to put this in. Almost looks like black. Should match this color up here because it's the same exact value. That would be a big problem if it didn't match. A little bit of... There we go. Straight edges. Okay, that looks pretty good. It's getting there. The trick with all of these exercises is taking your time, because all of them require patience. Okay, and then the last one is number 8 as well. The last number 8 is over here, and then the rest of them are 9. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in, since I've got it on my brush. I'm not so worried about those edges. I might go back in and put in a background. Okay, so there's all of my shadows. Now I'm going to go ahead and put in the final part, which is number 9, which is my black, the very last value. There it is, and it is definitely dark. This value is not messing around. Okay, so there's that. And then the very last area here, I got a big old glob in there. That's okay. I'm just gonna jimmy this, you know? Sometimes you gotta get into little tight spaces and you can't do these really big, thick, juicy, beautiful brush marks in one swipe. You just gotta kind of hang out with it for a minute and get it done. Just take your time. Breathe into it. It's the meditative part of painting. Okay. Whoa. Right at the last minute. All right, I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna go back to number 6 and just fix that little edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because I don't want that the last little thing to be off. There it is. Okay, perfect. All right, so now you've got a light, mid-tone, and dark tone, dark value cube. So let's do what we did before and put in some background. I have all this leftover paint. I want to go ahead and use it. I'm not going to go straight to black, but I do want to go dark in order to exemplify the lighter bits of this cube. Let's go ahead and throw some. Actually, I'm more interested in this edge here. And I'm going to edge this exactly how I showed you in the first video. That didn't do anything. Almost. There we go. This kind of gives a little bit of space to clean up edges too. Okay. And now I'm going to step down just a little bit. I'm just going to go down my value scale like playing the piano and just kind of lighten it up as I go, because I need some contrast. Okay, I'm going to go even lighter because now I don't want to do this value. This value is a number 5, so I don't want value 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go for value 6. And I can blend. There's no rules. There's no hard, fast rules on how to do your background. You just want your cubes to come forward in space. So therefore, they need to have some kind of contrast going on. And I want to get all the little white dots. It's very, it's a little OCD, getting all those little white dots, because anything white is going to throw this off. So, okay. So now what do I got over here? I've got a number 4. So I just need to go darker than 4 over there and I'm fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go with, I'm going to stay with kind of a 6. Just to, yeah. Just to kind of bring that out a little bit. Okay. And I feel like I can go a little bit lighter now, which is good because I'm starting to run out of a little bit of paint. This is number 5, so I need to go lighter than 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go with a 4, a solid 4, and bring this in. I actually might be able to go to a 3. I get a kind of a 4.3, a 4.5. Let's try a 4.5. There we go. Because I don't want it to eat the top of my cube. There it is. I want my cube to come forward in space. Okay, and we can kind of just blend this a little bit, just to soften it up a little bit. Filbert brush helps with this. It's kind of like using the tip of a finger and blending without having to use a tip of a finger. Okay, and then I'm going to get a little bit lighter back here just to push these forward in space, just like our sphere. I just put a huge blob of paint on, but that's okay because I'm going to use it to move things around. And get all those little white spaces. This is where really sharp edges help quite a bit. Oh, and it looks nice and roomy. Looks like these cubes have some room to breathe. which is what I wanted to do. Okay, get more paint on my brush. There we go. And I'm just gonna ease on out of this. So I gotta go back and fix this a little bit. Sometimes I skip ahead in my own painting, knowing that I'm gonna come back, but sometimes people look at my work and they think I have forgotten something. I have not, I just have to go back to it. I get kind of zoned out with another area. I kind of go where the fun is, but I gotta go back and take care of that stuff at some point. Okay, so now I'm gonna finish this up. Getting all those little white bits out so it's seamless. There it is, that's the magic of it. Okay, so I'm gonna blend that together. Okay, now I need like a little tabletop for them to rest on. I think I'm gonna make my tabletop kind of a little bit on the lighter side. I'm gonna go with like kind of a 2-3, just to give this something to rest on. Oop. And try not to make a mess while I'm doing it. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm gonna try. Okay, that's not looking bad. Okay, I'm gonna continue on with that, the 2-3, and close this gap here. And here, very important. Let's get this white area opened. And actually I could, for the sake of, well, I've got that dark color on there now. I was gonna say I could make this even a lighter in front of that white cube to show that there's light, but that's okay. It's just a white cube. And open this to a table. Now I just need to blend that and blend that. And voila, I think we have our value cubes. I think the last thing I'm gonna do before I clean all this stuff up is I want to make a little value scale, which I probably could have done at the beginning, but now I wanted to make sure I had enough paint for everything. So now I'm just gonna do like a little value scale, just so I have it and I know what my colors are referring to. So 1, 2, I kind of blended my 3 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I kind of blended my 2 and 3 together when I got all excited about the background, but there's still enough there. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 is coming up. 6, 7. Almost out of 7. Okay, 7. And then 8, which I have plenty of left. I'm gonna have to find a painting where I can just paint all 8 because I've got a huge blob of it now. Okay, and then 9 is the last value, which is black, chromatic black to be specific, a mix of ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And those are my value scales for my cubes, light, mid, and dark. Okay, we finished panel 1. Congratulations. If you've gotten through it, yay. If you need help with it, let me know. Email me, or you can put comments below the YouTube video. Ideally, you will post in the Facebook group that we have, or just send me an email with a photo. Otherwise, I look forward to working with you on panel number 2. Thanks so much for joining me.